So I've been saying this week, as we come to the end of me being here for shows every night, that I wanted to spend these last few shows talking about some of what is around the corner for Trump's second 100 days and beyond. Some new threats in what Trump is doing that the country, I think, hasn't really focused on yet, but I think this is stuff that's on its way. On Monday night, we talked about the first thing I really wanted to raise a flag on, which is this military zone Trump has created on the border where active duty U.S. troops have been given legal authorization to arrest U.S. citizens and search U.S. citizens on U.S. soil. That is not something the American military is supposed to do. Second thing we talked about last night, which is all of these immigration-related powers being turned against U.S. citizens, agents smashing up the house of a U.S. citizen and her daughters in Oklahoma City, U.S. citizens getting letters from the government telling them to leave the country, U.S. citizens being arrested and held in immigration prisons, U.S. citizen children being sent out of the country. This is something that is already happening here. This is not a slippery slope to worry about in the future. It's already happening. But here's the third thing I wanted to raise. Something that we sort of just, I think, haven't really gotten our heads around it yet. And it relates to DOGE and Elon Musk and what he's done in Washington. But it's the sort of black box at the center of whatever he has been doing in Washington. We know that DOGE is not about saving money, because even the amount of money that they claim to have saved, it's barely more than the amount of money they are thought to have wasted with the way they have behaved in Washington. There's been a ton of embarrassing and really indefensible mistakes that Musk and the DOGE team have made. But those mistakes, no matter how much publicity they get and how often they need to be reversed, it hasn't led them to stop making those mistakes. They haven't course corrected on any of that. So it seems like maybe they're not even viewing those things as mistakes. The one thing they are consistently doing and doing as aggressively as possible, and they haven't given us an explanation for why they're doing it, is that they are aggregating data. It is a huge data grab from what appears to be every agency in the government. And that really appears to be their only consistent priority, the only thing they are consistently and aggressively doing everywhere they insert themselves. What is that about? Why are they doing that? This is from investigative journalist Julia Engwin, who has reported on data privacy and security for years. She's writing in the New York Times today. She says, quote, DOGE is assembling a sprawling domestic surveillance system for the Trump administration, the likes of which we have never seen in the United States. Over the past 100 days, DOGE teams have grabbed personal data about U.S. residents from dozens of federal databases and are reportedly merging it all into a master database. This month, House Democratic lawmakers reported that a whistleblower had come forward to reveal that the master database will combine data from federal agencies, including Social Security, the IRS, and the Department of Health and Human Services. The whistleblower also alleged that DOGE workers are filling backpacks with multiple laptops, each one loaded with purloined agency data. What this amounts to is a stunningly fast reversal of our long history of siloing government data to prevent its misuse. In their first 100 days, Musk and Trump have knocked down the barriers that were intended to prevent them from creating dossiers on every U.S. resident. Now they seem to be building a defining feature of many authoritarian regimes, comprehensive files on everyone, so they can punish those who protest. A longtime civil liberties lawyer tells Ms. Engwin for the Times today, quote, this is what we were always scared of. The infrastructure for turnkey totalitarianism is there for an administration willing to break the law. Joining us now is Julia Engwin. She's founder of Proof News. She's the author of Dragnet Nation, A Quest for Privacy, Security, and Freedom in a World of Relentless Surveillance. Ms. Engwin, I really appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So I think that your op-ed is really helpful. I'm not any more tech savvy than the average bear, but I have found myself increasingly worried about what we don't know about why DOGE is assembling data the way they are and what they are planning to do with it. For an audience that may not be totally familiar with surveillance technology and the kind of privacy protections that you're so well versed in, can you explain in just layman's terms what you're most worried about here?
Well, what I'm worried about is the fact that the federal government has incredibly sensitive data about us, and we never really think about it, right? We send in our IRS returns, and that every penny we've spent and everything we've earned, we file an unemployment claim benefit, we get a social security check. And all those things are separate, and we deal with separate agencies. And never before has the government contemplated putting them all in one place. But that's what DOGE is doing. And the thing is that the reason that governments want to do that usually is they want to build these comprehensive dossiers on people. So essentially, the thing that authoritarians really like is they want to be able to say with a snap of a finger, I don't like this person, let's find something on him. And if they have to go to 6, 10 agencies to figure out that thing, that's hard. They want it all in one place. So they want to be able to just get something on you. China is sort of the example that does this. They have these master files that they have on every citizen that are everything that they've ever done. It's called social credit scores. They have, and they use it to punish dissent. And I'm very worried that that's where we're going. We have a president who's been really outspoken about he wants revenge on his political enemies, and we have somebody collecting data about everyone so that he can go after his enemies.
You write really, I think, articulately and clearly about the privacy laws and the sort of inherent safety structures that are built into siloing data the way that you're describing, so it can't be easily combined. But if the type of one-stop shopping master database is being compiled here, is U.S. privacy law powerless against it? I mean, could legal action force the dismantling of something like that, or would it effectively be beyond the law?
Well, our privacy law is really not up to the task. First of all, we are one of the only nations that doesn't have a comprehensive privacy law that protects, basically sets a minimum baseline for all data usage. Every other country has one. And almost every other country has a data protection authority that's an agency tasked specifically with protecting data. So we're already behind. But then if you look at the law that specifically applies to the federal government data, the Federal Privacy Act, it was passed in 1974 basically under a thought that, like, we would have good faith actors who would be making sort of maybe a mistake with data, but not acting malevolently. So there's really no fines. I mean, minimum fines. There's very little remedies. Basically, the remedy is you go to the court and say, they took my data, they were wrong, I want it corrected. Sort of like the idea was more like correcting your credit score or getting your name changed. And so there isn't a lot that the judges have to work with when they are they know that this law applies, but there's not a lot that they can do to stop other than saying make sure that the data is correct, or that you publish a notice in the Federal Register saying you're going to use the data for this purpose, both of which are not really adequate remedies for the creation of dossier files about every citizen, the likes of which we have never seen.
Yeah, which just highlights the need to have a political response to this that creates a political cost for those who are trying to do it. First step toward that is understanding what they're doing. And I think your work on this has really helped me at least understand what the threats are and what the parameters of this are. So Julia Engwin, investigative journalist, thank you so much for your writing on this, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Much more news ahead here tonight. Stay with us.